We ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. 5, 4, 1, 6, 7, action.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Robert Lee live from National Fire Radio with my co-host Jeremy Donch. In the studio today, we have Jim Dougherty. I said it correctly?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Jim's from Ramsey Fire Department, and he's also one of the senior instructors at the Bergen County Fire Training Center.
Correct.
Amongst a litany of other things. So
Yes.
we'll dive right in there. Jim, what was your first fire?
It's funny. My first fire was probably a leaf fire or a brush fire as a junior back in 79 or 80. And this started a conversation in the Firehouse to figure out what my first fire actually was. And my best recollection is towards the end of my junior career, my first fire was Dr. Lynch's house, which was an old farmhouse in town. And I remember we rode on the back step of the engine because our job as juniors was to make sure we had water supply. We had a 1973 Mack open cab Mack. Well, everything was open cab then. And we were the back crew, myself and the other 3 or 4 juniors we had. And I remember we hit the line, we hit the nozzle, and then they told us to get dressed. And as a junior, it was like, I mean, that was like throwing you a trophy, you know. Threw on the old SCBAs. At the time, it was the old elephant trunks. You know,
Yeah.
The old 2As or the 2Bs, whatever they were. And I remember following a line down the hallway, and the kitchen was rolling up over your head and everything else. It was like absolutely awesome to be able to do that.
That's wild.
And that I believe, to my best recollection, that is my first real working fire. First fire, probably a leaf fire.
Yeah. So
So with that, like, what do you have in your mind, like a first fire that like, where like, was this your first real deal one, or was there one like after that you would just remember, like you were like that was when the training kicked in, and you were just like, this is like, it's more than just a room, like.
I don't know. And again, the conversations we had at the Firehouse were what fires we had in the 80, 82 region when I came to become a regular. And unfortunately, there were so many. There was Bella Scarp, which was a place on the highway. There was the Terhune House, which was on Franklin Turnpike, where we believe that guy, if I recall from, again, conversation of memories, they cut holes in the floor.
yeah.
So it was intentionally set. Ollie's Carpet on the highway. So probably Bella Scarp. Bella Scarp was probably the one that where everything kicked in. You're dragging down the hallway with the hose. You're on the knob and you're going down, and stuff's falling down in the ceiling. And that's one of the ones where you get your first feeling, because I remember the air conditioner came through the roof, and it was like, wow, did
Yeah.
that just happen?
Yep.
You know, time to get out. Let's get out of here. And you know, you back out. But probably Bella Scarp was probably the
And
first.
what year was that, Jim?
I'm pretty sure
Ballpark?
that was 82. It was the summer of 82.
So in 82, you're talking long coats, hip boots, back
Oh, yeah.
step.
Yeah.
We stretching double jacketed, hose, and
Yeah.
no 5-inch, right? So you're laying double threes.
Well, Mawa actually was the first one in the area at 5-inch.
Okay.
And they brought the 5-inch up that night.
And that was back then,
That
huh?
was back then. They were the first one with 5-inch.
And
That's
And they one or
that's
two
early.
inches, yeah.
That's early for
Yeah.
5-inch.
Well, Mawa has everything, It's Mawa.
Yeah, that's
What
fantastic.
was what was this building?
Bella Scarp, if I remember correctly, it was a shoe store. It was a shoe store on 17, currently where the Volkswagen dealer is on 17 North. Because 17 and Lake Street at one time was a light. It wasn't an overpass. And I remember when it was a light, and we had a lot of accidents there. But Bella Scarp was 2 buildings up. It was a Sunoco station, a farm stand, and then Bella Scarp was right there. And that's where we had the first big fire that I remember going into and stuff happening. But it was really cool. But Mawa had the 5-inch, and we did we had the forward lay and the reverse lay as everybody else did on the engine.
Yeah.
The cotton at 2.5 and 3-inch.
Split beds, yeah.
Split beds, we
Yep.
laid that, and the old hose, and as you said, the pull-up boots, the fireball gloves, the duck coats with your name spray painted on the back.
Yeah.
You had to spray over the first guy's name.
Was that like the rubber coat, like the rubber
No,
fire
it was
coats? or-
the duck coats,
Okay. Okay.
And then the fiberglass. Remember the fiberglass helmets? They weren't really they were carbonate fiberglass helmet. That was even before the plastic.
Yeah, don't age me, Jim. Don't age me.
I'm sorry. But that was it. And actually, we were the young group that went to Carnes and Clifton.
Yeah.
And we bought our own bunker pants. We started with bunker pants, hoods.
Yeah, because
all
I think
stuff.
that was mid-'80s, right? When bunker pants started,
When
like
it started really
85, 86,
Yeah,
somewhere
when
in
it started
there.
really
And
getting prevalent in the city. Actually, there was a firefighter from Elizabeth. God forbid I can't remember his name. Got burned really bad.
Yeah.
And he actually spoke at National Fire Academy one time. We watched him. He was burning his hands, his face, and then right after that we went well bunker pants and hoods and coats and the gloves. And at the time, the gloves don't have the thermal layering they have now. They were just
sure.
regular
Right.
gloves.
Right.
But we didn't wear the fireball gloves.
Yeah.
Because they you see the stories them melting in your hands. They were the hose packing gloves.
No, at least you remember to wear them. I mean, I remember one of my first nozzle jobs. I was the backup man. Push in, fire show on second floor. We push in through the front door as backup. Nozzle man hit the stairs. We had perfect visibility on the first floor. We pushed up to the second floor. Smoke down to the floor on the landing. Zero visibility. Turn the corner. Rooms off. Out 2 windows on arrival. So it was an easy push. And I remember getting to the top of the landing, humping the hose, and I realized I come to realize that I didn't have my gloves.
Right.
And I'm like, son of a bitch.
And now we all carry extra gloves,
Yeah,
extra
right.
hoods,
Yeah,
socks.
right.
Our bunker pants weigh an additional 150 pounds because of all the stuff we're carrying.
Yeah.
Screwdrivers, pliers, multi-tools. Anybody got a screwdriver? Here,
Truck belts,
You gotta
escape
watch
harnesses.
when you ask that question because it's like a prison scene. You're gonna get shanked. Like
You're gonna get shanked. Somebody's gonna
5 or 6 screwdrivers are coming right at you.
I'm at the point now though. I took a lot of stuff out of my pockets because all the younger guys are carrying it. You just go. Anybody got a screwdriver? And everybody pulls screwdrivers out. Anybody got a length of rope?
Doctor.
Yeah. Somebody has something.
Yeah. Well, that's funny.
Jim, you served pretty much, I think, every position in the department. I have to call you an ex-chief because Tucker said, "Don't call me a past chief."
I'm not dead.
Yeah, we're not dead.
Past chief, we're
Jesus.
dead.
That's a thing, huh?
Past
I never heard that until the other night. And then
Come on.
you
Past
just said the
chief-
same
no,
thing.
no. That's the past chief. That's dead. Ex-chief, I was done. I'm a has-been. I'm over with. Thanks for having me.
Coming back.
I don't know. Never. I probably would never hold the position of chief again.
He got the T-shirt, and it really wasn't good quality.
I liked all the other positions. Chief, I probably wouldn't do again.
Which position did you like the best?
Captain.
Captain.
I like captain.
And Ramsey, what was the captain's position like?
You had the option of going to the scene in your own car. Sometimes you would go. Sometimes you would ride with the rig, ride on the truck. You could still work. You still could get down and dirty, and you could still go on all the mutual aid calls. Because our chiefs had rules where one would go, and the rest of them would stay available.
Right.
So the captain could pretty much do what he wants. It's like the ultimate freelance position.
Yeah.
You get there, you get a job, you go on a rig, you're really not part of the crew, and I'm just going to go off and take a position and do what I want. But I like captain. Captain was the good down and dirty position. Basket would come down at a call where we're going up to put the elevated platform up. Everybody go, I got the basket. You walk over and go, I got the basket.
Yeah.
I'm going. So.
With the company officer stuff, like, what did you feel was like one of the strong points as a company officer that you really like to, if there's something you look back to being either a lieutenant or a captain, like the one thing you were just like, yeah, this is the one part I really enjoyed.
Training.
Okay.
Training. I was the captain. I was training officer in my department, and I really enjoyed it. I did it 150%. I did a lot of it, and I liked it. Excellent drills, getting houses and structures that you could go in, and the stuff I've learned through different classes, real life drills rather than just sitting in the firehouse and watching a video or going over things in the firehouse, going out and actually doing it. Talk about it for a little while. All right, let's go do it. I like training officer. That was good. I like that position.
And is that what led you to become an instructor on the academy level?
Probably.
Or were you already?
Probably. No,
I mean, how many years have you been instructing now?
I think it's been 14 or 15 years.
Okay.
I wanted to do that for a long time. There are certain things that happened that triggered that. My building background, as I said, I was an electrician, union electrician, building on my own business, doing my own stuff. And then there was a couple of fires. There was one major fire that made me really want to get into the building construction part of it and the training part of it. And after that, I started doing more and more training. And not only that, I had time to train because, again, I was a young kid. I was living at home, and we went training everywhere. Our whole group went training.
Yeah. Well, that's how it works, right? Is you get in the groove with the same guys
all the time.
all the
Sign
time,
up for everything.
and you get that camaraderie. I know in my hometown department, it seems like it's every generational class that comes through our department sticks together.
Yeah.
And I had a great solid group of guys. I'm one of the last ones left. A lot of them have moved on. Most of them are career firemen now. I stayed behind as the career volunteer. Sebi, our guy here behind the scenes, he's got a good group of. They got a solid group of guys that they do everything together.
It's tough to get anybody motivated to go do things sometimes.
Agreed.
Again, back in the day, I hate saying that term, but back in the day, we used to go to training all over the place, in a lot of places. National Fire Academy. However, like my Fire One at the time was essentials or basic
Essentials of
firemanship.
Firemanship.
But now, do you remember the Fire College, New Jersey Fire College? We used to go down to, it was either Seagirt or Seaside.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to go down there, and they had the little round patch, and they had advanced truck, advanced pump, advanced hose, and we'd go away. And we had more fun doing that. You go away, have a good time, and then learn.
Yeah, our department required their pump class. That's how you got qualified as a chauffeur.
Okay.
Because you had to go to Seagirt and get your pump operator.
To the Fire College.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
And then you get to meet people from all over the place. I have met people from all over the country, just going to different fire classes. National Fire Academy, Baltimore, Maryland, going down there. But training, to me, you got to go to the training. You got to do the training. You got to participate. Watching some of the kids in the fire class just stand there and not participate really bothers me, because everybody needs to participate, younger, older, whatever. One of my pet peeves, I do some training now with everybody with Department South River, and one of my pet peeves is to get the chiefs in, get the chiefs in doing it, get the officers in doing it.
Yeah.
Because if the men don't see the officers training with them, and they're sitting in office doing paperwork, when you go out in the field, how do I know what you know? Some of these kids have never seen us act, never seen us at a fire, never seen what we can do.
Right.
And we don't have fires like we used to in order to show them. So if you're in the office and I got some guy teaching a class, how do I know what you can do? So yeah, I'm the training officer in Saddle River, but when we do a class, you're the captain, you're going to do a section, you're going to do a section, you're going to do it. Show them your knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Show them what you can do.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, a couple years ago, I was down in Hyattsville for the Live-In Week. Because back a couple years ago, the Live-Ins used to go away to the beach every week.
Right.
And, they'd have their rest and relaxation, drinking, and
Right.
raising hell and everything else. But one night we had to keep the ladder truck in service, and Chief Hang showed up. And we were like, all right. And he wasn't running the battalion or anything. So he's like, hey, I'll tiller. And, everybody kind of, stopped for a second and paused and looked at him. And then, there was this, does DH really know how to tiller? Does he still remember? And I'm like, hey, he's going to follow the guy in front of him. It'll be all right. But he jumped right in that spot.
Right.
And we ran some boxes that night, and he still had it. And it was kind of, for me at least, I enjoyed seeing him as the chief be able to step up into that position, because I've always seen him in a chief's uniform,
Right.
in his buggy, going and running boxes and stuff. Never actually in the position. So it was kind of cool to see that. And I wish some officers would do that more often, especially in the volunteer services, just because it would be good to, it's almost, I don't know, it's like rattling a saber a little bit for the men to see that, that's my chief, he still got it.
I always said that in any department, anywhere, you want to become chief. After assistant chief, you go back for a year.
Right.
Go back and you run the rig, you get on a rig, you drive, you ride with the men for a year, then become chief. Because you get comfortable all those years moving up, and then all of a sudden you got to go back.
Yeah.
And you got to find out all those policies that you made, all the stuff that you've done, all the things you purchased. Now you got to go back and deal with it.
Yep.
Now you come back and you go, you know what? We need to fix that.
I agree. We've had this conversation right here where I was a young chief, and I've gone through the ranks again, and I'm a retread company officer, engine officer, lieutenant, captain, and then I finally stepped down. Now I'm just a true senior guy in a firehouse. I had no responsibility other than being a fireman. And, and it's funny because I sit there when I was a retread captain, and you sit there with these younger kids and they look at you and go, when you were chief, and I go, yeah, I was a young chief. I didn't know any better.
Right.
I said, and that's and that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother discussion. But, we kind of push guys through the line too, sometimes too quick. Not that I wasn't a good chief or an ineffective chief, but I like to think I was a good chief, but I was young and I didn't have the life experiences I have now. Right. So, now, being the guy, I'm still 24, 25 years in, I'm still coming out to CO alarms, and I'm still showing up for every alarm that I could possibly make, because I've dedicated myself to being a firefighter, and I enjoy that thrill, whether it's a CO alarm or a structural fire, I enjoy it. And so I think the younger guys in my house get a true kick out of that I still come out and they can count on me to wheel the engine for a CO alarm or be the nozzle man for a fire. Yeah. And I enjoy it. I really enjoy it.
I've been bad the last couple of years. I haven't been that guy running out at night. You know? It's just,
how many years, Jim?
36
years.
So it's very difficult for me to get up at night for the bullshit alarm and go and then come home and then get up again 20 minutes later for another one. those have settled down, you know. But listen, I'm getting older. I need to sleep. You know, I got to get up in the morning. I got to function, and I got to go to work.
Yeah, well, and part of this conversation too is that, you know, in volunteer departments that are having manpower issues, I've had this conversation with a lot of my more senior guys than I am, and I said, you know, I understand that over a certain point, you have to start slowing down. I get that,
Right.
and I respect that. You've put
Right.
your time in. You've done your 20 years, 25
But I've
years.
earned that.
I get it, without a doubt.
You've earned that.
The only problem is that we don't have the numbers coming up behind us anymore
Right.
to take over your shoes.
take over.
When you take a 25-year man out of the firehouse, right? Because you have younger guys coming up behind them that can, your knowledge and know-how is probably 4 of them, and it's hard with numbers. It's a numbers game now, right? And so it's hard to fulfill your legacy or your position when, and I'm in the same spot. Like, I get it. And we have guys with 30, 40, 50 years in the fire service too. We all slow down. It's a fact of life, especially in the volunteer service. And that's respected and it's deserved, and everybody respects that. But it's hard. It's getting harder and harder to fill those shoes though.
You know, you go to dinners and you go to a lot of mutual aid dinners, and you see guys getting high numbers on their stripes.
Right.
You know, Mr. Chief Warnett out
Right.
of Wyckoff just got 60 years.
Yeah.
God bless his, you know, got 60 years. You're not going to see many of those in dinners in 15, 20 years.
I think you're absolutely right.
Guys are going to be going to college. They're going to be leaving. They're going to, you know, face it. You're not going to be able to buy a house in Ramsey. You know, you're not going to be able to buy a house in Franklin Lakes. You know, so they're going to move on. They may get a 50-year pin down the road. But you know, you talk about active service. You know, how long you've been here, if you stay as a member, a life member. But you're not going to have those 40, 50 active year guys.
Agreed.
I don't see you're going to see many of them.
There was a time where I was going to transfer. I was thinking of transferring, so I went to another department in Westchester to interview, and they had, I believe, they had a program for their volunteers because they were kind of like, you know, they were pretty forward thinking. They went to the village and everybody, and they're like, listen, these developments that are coming up, it's great and it's good for business, but this is what a career department costs, and we need to have some subsidized housing for our membership, because if you don't do that, like, there's not going to be any incentive for people. Like, they just won't be able to afford.
There's going to be no young kids.
Yeah. So,
There's going to be no young kids. All of them now that you're looking at the housing and everything else now. It's all becoming low-income housing, but they're not for the residents. They're not for, you know, it's coming from outside. And then, or there's the over 50 residents. So all the over 50 residents are getting something, and and I don't want to say it the wrong way, but the outsiders are coming in, getting low-income housing. But what about the kids that live in town that want to stay in town?
Right.
The just the DPW people, you know, the fire department, the ambulance corps, you know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough in the future.
now I want to go back a little bit, because there was something you said before. There was a particular fire that kind of motivated you to get into the training world.
I did.
You did. You said there was something that happened. And you were like, and that was like the
July 1st, 1988 was the Hackensack Ford fire. I was actually working at Kramer's yard, the Motorola building behind the jail, and I was on my way home. And just to digress for a moment, back then we buffed. I don't know if we buffed like
course.
crazy. You get up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. We had the next hells. You know, it was funny because 3 o'clock in the morning you hear in your bed, whoop, and you know, you get dressed because we're going to a fire somewhere. We're going to go buff. We're going to go see things.
The alert goes out.
The alert goes out, right? So I was actually leaving work, and the Hackensack Ford fire came in, and I was right there. I watched all of that.
Yeah.
I watched it all. There's actually a video out that they talk about the documentary, and there's a couple of scenes that I saw. I watched them in the garage, through the garage where the stair was they were at when it collapsed. Heard the radio transmission, watched the chief do his command thing. We knew nothing then of bowstring truss.
Right.
There was nothing. There was nothing out there. We didn't know anything about bowstring truss. So you know, and you're a young kid. I mean, it was 88. I got in 82, so 6 years in the department. You know, and you think you know everything. You've seen everything. You know,
wow. And you've had fires under your belt, because I mean, in the 80s we were burning.
Right, but nothing was that close to that fatal. You know what I'm saying? You've seen people in a fire, you've seen that, but you never saw that.
Right.
To a point where what I saw. And there's a couple things that I did that I helped do and tried to do some things and rescue people. And I was with a guy, I don't know his name to this day. We grabbed a battering ram off the old ladder truck in the back, and we made a big hole in the shop and couldn't find nobody. Apparently we were close, but we weren't close enough. And And that fire kind of made me think about a lot of things. Shortly thereafter, that Brunacini came around and did his incident command shtick.
Right.
Saw that up in Orangeburg. Listened to his speech. You know, that's when incident command started becoming big. That's when building construction started becoming big. People started looking at communications and all that stuff. But before all that, you know, you watched a fire, and then, you know, 4th of July weekend, you think about these things, and then a week later, we're standing in the street for all these guys, and that was a tough, tough thing to watch, you know.
Yeah.
So now you're saying to yourself, you know, I don't get paid for doing this, and at the time, I had no thought about being a career fireman. No thought about it. We had enough work. We had enough fun.
Sure.
I didn't need to do it. You know, but then all the things started coming out. Bowstring Trust coming out. Construction started coming out. Turnout gear, safety, radios, the incident command thing, and you watch that and you think about that now, back then, and you say to yourself, "Wow."
Well, I think that time period, the 80s, right? That is a tremendous turning point for the fire service.
Yes.
In our country.
Yes.
Right? Hackensack, and just because we have listeners and people watching and so on, but if you're not familiar with the Hackensack Ford fire, Jim, you said 1988?
July 1st, 1988.
Okay. If you're not familiar with it, there's a lot of material out there.
It's worth a Google.
It's absolutely worth it. It's one of the fires that was instrumental in changing the way we view command, incident command, building construction, and so on. We lost
Radios.
We lost a few brothers that day, and it was it wasn't a New Jersey thing. This was a nationwide disaster that happened that really changed how the fire service viewed a lot of different topics. But just to get back on point, I think that time frame in the fire service was critical.
Absolutely.
So many changes.
Just from bunker pants, the gear we wore, the radios we wore, the SCBA's, the SCBA went from the demand to positive pressure. Remember the little flip switch,
right?
And then the Scott 2As came out with the big face piece and that whole. I mean, it was a whole different world for us.
Right.
Every time you turn around, it was something.
Right.
You know. Then there was, you know, between the gear, the equipment, the training, the mandatory training on building construction, the training on different things.
How about accountability?
Accountability came out.
Yeah. Right.
You know, the radio. I said radios 3 times now. But the thermal imaging cameras.
Right.
Back in the day, we had that little thing you would squeeze, and a little line would go up when something got hotter. You could look at it and go hotter. We didn't have thermal imaging cameras.
Right.
That came out.
Well, how about the fact that not everybody had portable radios?
Portable radio.
Right. It was like one per crew.
One per truck. One.
Right.
And they were the big Maxtron.
Yeah. Right.
Antenna. You know.
Yeah.
We had that. Yeah.
So I mean, incredible changes and thank you for sharing that, because I can tell that was difficult for you and a tough time for you. But you know, I think it was a tough time for the fire service, and I think a lot of good has come out of it.
Yes,
and I think
absolutely.
a lot of that good is you being a part of the good. I mean, you've made a lot of changes. You made a choice to pursue training because of something that directly affected you, and I think that's, you know, excellent. Instead of sitting back and taking a back step to it, you got out there in front of it and said, well, I want to be a part of the change.
Well, I mean, I don't know what your feeling is on it, Jim, but like for me as a student, you know, anytime that I've been in a classroom and there's some, like, you know, all right, hey, like we're going to talk about this event that happened, and you know, and it was on this date, this time, and you're just sitting there and you're like, all right, that sucks, you know. But then there's a huge difference when there's somebody in front of the room saying, listen up to what I'm telling you, because I was there that day and I saw it, and it really sets a tone, you know, and having friends that have gotten hurt, I can say like it's you know, it definitely changes your outlook.
One of the things in our classes that I like to try to do is you know, we follow curriculum, and the curriculum is basic, and Paul Dansback, great instructor,
Sure.
Rutherford Fire Department, who you should have here. He gave us a sheet one time, and one of the things that we try to do in some of the classes is make you go look up a fire. We give you fires that have affected us somehow.
I love it.
One big one was Jacksonville in Great Adventure. If you remember the Great Adventure fire, it was an amusement park fire. A bunch of people were killed in
The
that.
haunted house.
The haunted house.
Yeah.
That spot is still down there, and you know, all these kids have gone, and just again, these kids that I'm teaching don't know about this.
Right.
They've never seen or heard of this. They're like, what are you talking about? They weren't even born. You know. So you talk about the Great Adventure fire. You talk about the station nightclub fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went out to the station nightclub when my fiance was out working in Rhode Island, and I was blown away at how close the fire station was. Like I think, and I tell people, I was like, you watch that video and then understand that his fire station was like within walking distance.
Did you see the fire spread in
Yeah.
that video? I mean, I don't mean to get
Yeah,
get
but
into
like-
it,
Yeah.
but the fire spread on that was unbelievable.
And I always follow that up with like, when you get on that truck, you need to get off ready to work, because
Right.
not to say that they didn't,
Right.
but like that's what can happen.
Right. And interesting about the station nightclub fire, if you did there's a program there, you saw the program for getting the fire, the band was an older band, and it listed how many kids were left without parents, how many kids were left without grandparents, because it was an older crowd.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were all young kids.
It was an '80s cover band, wasn't it? Like Skid
yeah,
Row or
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
And the week before they played down here in Asbury, so that could have been happening here.
Really?
Yeah, they played in
Yeah.
Asbury the week before. Yeah.
You know, and I just saw on the news the other night, Happy Land Social Club, New York City. That was they just had an
They had
anniversary
an
on that
anniversary
one.
for that. Yeah.
And so on. So the list goes on and on. I mean, you know, and so on. But you know, all pivotal fires. I think that's a fantastic thing for you and Bill Dansback to do, though. I mean, I love history.
That's good. And another one we get is give Instructor Lewis credit is he told me this: you go out to the memorial and you take a name off the memorial, and you give it to a student, and go look it up, tell me where he's from, tell me everything, give me a bio, and you make them do it. You know, so not only with the NIST reports, it kind of gives them a little closeness. Some kids it gets across, the other ones won't take to the class. They're like, you know, that's whatever, you know. But some of them really take to it, you know, and they're like, oh, this guy, you know. I mean, right here in this town, we had a fatal. Whitty, right? Didn't he get run over here?
I'm not familiar. I'll be honest with
there
you.
there was a fire. There was an elderly fireman. We had a fire. They had a fire over here at a furniture finishing place, and Tinker Eddie Hollema was the fire chief, because we were working in Sea Caucus, and he had gotten off the rig, and the rig missed the hydrant, and backed over him.
Okay.
And it was right down the road here on Gulf Road. So you know, you talk about these things, and it's right here in Midland Park, and you give that name to a Midland Park kid,
Yeah.
and they'll go, "Really? I didn't know that." It's
Yeah.
history of your department.
Yeah, I've been involved my whole life. Grew up in the firehouse, so I got to familiarize. I'm not familiar with that.
No. I mean, right here. I mean, and again, I'm going to pick on you. How long you been here? You're the Bergen County line of duty death, right here.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're right.
No, but
You're right.
you know, those are the things that you try to get across to these kids.
Yeah.
It's not all
How do
fun
you?
and games.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, you're heavily entrenched in instruction and teaching at the academy, and you're seeing these younger kids come through and so on. And I have to think. I mean, there's got to be the drive, the desire. Are they there? Do you see a lot of second generation still? Do you see, or third generation? Do you see the legacy? Do you see a lot of new kids new to the fire service? What is there a mixture of both?
I think there's a mixture. In the Fire 1 class, I mean, I've had legacy kids.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's related, and those are the easy classes to teach, because they know, they've seen it, they get it. And then I've taught class where only 2 or 3. You know, the first thing you ask, hey, anybody related? 2 or 3 guys raise their hand, and you're like, wow, okay. And then they're like, what do we do? You know, I have to explain to them the difference between a truck and an engine. I have to explain to them between a rear mount and a tiller. I have to explain, you know, but there are still some legacy kids out there, but I don't think there's many. I don't think there's many following in our footsteps.
Yeah.
What are some like obstacles you've had to overcome in your career? You know, with this, whether it's both instruction or being a line officer, anything that
Obstacle.
sticks out, like you were like, you know, this one time, man,
Obstacles.
why they made us wear bell bottoms, I'll never understand it. You know, like
You know, it's change. Everybody changes. You know, we all have our personal things that we don't like change about. I don't know. I don't know. I guess my obstacle in my whole fire career, my whole life, has been my mouth. You know, just don't know when to shut.
I can relate.
Don't
I
know
can
when to
relate.
shut it sometimes. You know,
Well,
because everybody has an opinion, and some people keep their opinion to themselves, but not me.
yeah.
if my fiance is watching this, she's going to say, "See, you should take notes right now, but you're not writing anything down from that nice man.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Giving
it
you some
doesn't
quality advice that'll get
I
you
get
through a
it.
marriage."
I mean, I get it. I mean, I've been I'm the same way. I'm very outspoken and I let my feelings known. But I also think that at the end of the day, I don't go home feeling that I didn't put it out there as to where I thought I needed to be or my
Right.
stance.
Right. You know,
You know?
there's always a place to give your opinion.
Right.
You know, and sometimes that place is not the right place when you give your opinion, I guess.
But I think in the fire service though, it's sometimes okay when you are, you know, we talk about shut up and listen, right?
Right.
Keep your mouth closed, open
Yeah.
your ears, right?
Right.
And that's really good and solid advice for new kids in the firehouse. But I think in guys of years of in the business and they have a good understanding and working knowledge and they have a bunch of fires under their belt and they're in a position, I think sometimes a little speak up. I find myself being the voice of reason more often than I used to be.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah. And you say to yourself, when did I be?
Yeah.
How bad is it that I became the voice of reason?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of times where I'm like,
Without a
why,
doubt.
why am I being an adult right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
That's-
When did that happen?
Yeah.
You sit in your firehouse meeting, and you go back and forth at firehouse meetings sometimes. The meeting alone, you think about your meetings. Why are we arguing about this? This is
Every
really?
one of us just signed.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
man, like,
Yeah.
don't talk
We're
about
arguing
that.
about this? Are you serious? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
I think the same argument in every firehouse happens all the time. The kitchen's dirty.
Right.
The kitchen's always dirty.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, why is the kitchen always dirty? It's funny because I say this to other people. Yeah, you go to the firehouse, you talk about your kitchen. The name on the firehouse changes, but everything stays the same. But you're right. Our opinions. There's a place for it. You got the officer's room. You got the upstairs.
Agreed.
Fire ground is a whole different way of doing things.
Correct.
And then just one last thing before we wrap up, Jim. If there's one piece of advice that you could give to yourself now when you started in '82, what would it be?
Buy Apple. No,
That is the most sound advice.
Hey, that's great advice.
That's not what you're talking about.
Fire service related.
Okay.
That's
Fire service
fantastic.
What would be the best advice I'd say to myself? I would say never become an officer. Stay as a fireman. You'll enjoy it more. You'll enjoy it more. My wife and I talk about this all the time, and she said, when I first met you were just a fireman, and it was fun. And then as you moved up, it just got more and more difficult. I gotta say I enjoyed it, but probably like I said, seriously, I would say stay a fireman. Just stay a fireman. Just be that guy.
Well, I mean, I know we're wrapping here, but I like that, and I like, but I interpret that a little bit differently too. Is that stay a fireman, meaning even if you become the officer in my world, right?
Stay a fireman.
Stay a fireman.
Stay a fireman.
Right.
Don't forget where you came from.
Exactly.
Always remember where you were from.
That's right.
And as I said before, I think before you become chief, you got to go back for a year.
Yeah.
Go back for a year and learn to lead from the front, not from the back.
I love
what
it.
I'm saying? Lead from the front, because there's too many people that lead from the back.
Yeah.
And we don't need that. We don't need that. Show me what you can do. Lead by example. Go to school. Go to classes.
I love it.
Sign up. Be that first guy to sign up. Put your name on a sheet.
Be a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for coming.
That's
It
it?
was a
We're done?
pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say,
I didn't even drop the F-bomb once.
I know.
no, I
I
think
didn't.
you're good.
I didn't. See, that was a bet we had when I became fire chief. Just a sidebar. So when I became one of the chiefs, and I got a mount of a truck driver. So
I get it.
So the bet was when I was going to drop the F-bomb. Okay. So I didn't. So Mike Scallione is the fire chief. I'm the assistant chief. I'm down at my parents' house. It's 3:00 in the morning. I'm listening on this app. I'm listening to a working fire on Wyckoff Avenue. And somebody calls Mike on the radio and he says, "Put the effing truck over there." I was not excited about the fire at all. I was more excited he said F. I'm like, he said it first. I didn't do it. And I'm telling you, we went back. That's what everybody said. Mike said it, not me. It was great.
That's fantastic. But Jim, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It was a pleasure.
No, thank you. It was fun.
Everybody listening and watching, thanks for tuning in. Ex-Chief Jim Dougherty of the Ramsey Fire Department and Senior Instructor, Bergen County Fire Academy. Solid guy, home run of a firefighter, and we'll have him back for some more. So thanks for tuning in. For myself, Chief Dougherty.
And Robert Lee, everybody be safe out there. We'll catch you next time.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thanks.